So one of the big reasons I went wrong in the last video is because I didn't soak the wall beforehand. And what we're going to do now, got myself a little 5 litre pressure bottle and just soak it. As I'm getting a bit of stick in the last video for using my brush, which is fair enough. So I got some good advice really, just spray it until it stops soaking in. And then when you see the water collecting on the top, that's when you start doing your mix. So the thing is, I messed up on that video, but I have learned. I will not be doing that again. So just keep spraying it until it kind of sits. As you can see, it's still pulling in. Then when it starts to collect and pool up, you know it's got a decent rate of moisture in there. I must admit, this little pressure bottle is a gem. It has been wet the last few days, so it shouldn't be too bad, to be fair. And it's not a big area, so I'm not too bothered about it setting. So a bit more, I think that'll be alright. So lesson learnt on that one. Torque the mix. Got the bath out, we're going to give the Mega Mixer a proper go, so that'll be tested. It's going to be 5-to-1 mix. I've got 4 bags for this to get everything else filled. And we're also going to have half lime, so it's 5-to-1. This is mixed out, and we're going to have half lime, so it's 5 sand, 1 cement, half lime, and there's a bit of render mix in there, hence why it looks like it's a bubble bath. So what we're going to do now is test this bad boy, see how it performs. I think it should be good. So yeah, first time. This is a Rafina Mega Mixer MM30. It's the biggest one you can buy. So it's designed to be mixed in backing, plaster, render, and as you can see, it just eats it up. Lovely drill, very powerful. I've had to actually strap the GoPro to the head because I couldn't hold the GoPro and the drill at the same time. It is very powerful, and it mixed it up in no time, as you can see. 2 gears, very simple, 1 trigger. Easy to use. I highly recommend this mixer to anyone who's serious about plastering. And to be honest, it was nowhere near as expensive as your battery powered ones, and because I'm mainly domestic, I don't need to worry about generators or working on site. So for me, this mixer has turned out to be a bit of a beauty, and I'm sure I'll be doing videos with it in the future. The first go is definitely worth a try. Okay, so it comes to the application. I'm back on the Nella carbon steel trowel, trying to break this bad boy in. And I must admit, I've been using it a lot more. Still not quite as to the standard of Marshalltown yet, but it's getting there. But to be honest, I'm growing to like it more and more. Like all Nella trowels, I think they just need a bit of time to fall in love with them. But anyway, I'm working on top of scratch coat. Like I've seen, I've wetted the walls in. So give it some moisture, it's got something to bind to. The big thing when you are applying render is all about pressure. So do smaller sections and really push that render into the scratch. The last thing you want is for it to go drummy. Drummy is basically where the render hasn't fixed to the coat before. So when you are applying it, just really push it into the render and just put as much pressure as you can behind it basically. Especially when you're working onto a scratch coat, you need to make sure that it's really firmly set into there. And the other thing is, just make sure you try and get it as flat as possible, but you don't want to over trowel the render. You don't want to keep going over it, flattening it. It's not like plaster, and you're not going to get it flat with your trowel. What your main aim is to put it on and leave it. Obviously flatten it to a point, and try and get it as flat as possible, so when you're ruling off, which we're going to discuss in a bit, you're not taking too much off. But the idea is to just avoid troweling it and avoid playing with it. You want to put it on and then let it soak into the scratch, and you've got to basically give it time, because sand cement sets via oxidation. It's not a chemical set, so you've got to let the oxygen get to it and you've got to let it do its thing. So you put it on and you leave it, and that's it with render. The more you trowel it, the more damage you're going to do, and the more it's going to come away from the wall. You would just want to put it on and forget about it. So really refrain from going back and playing with it. That was the thing when I first started rendering. I'd treat it like it was plaster, and I'd keep going, troweling it, and it just ends up making it worse. You just want to put it on, and then that's it. So fairly big scoops. And what you'll find with render, it doesn't go nowhere near as far as anything else you'll use. It just eats the stuff. So even though it's a fairly small area, I think we ended up using, there was a bits at the back as well, I ended up using 5 bags of sand. So it doesn't go that far. But when you get used to using sand cement, it's a lovely product to use. So this is it really. That's the main things you want to look out for when you are applying it. What I've used is just this big slab of timber just to cover up the drains. It's actually a big wet room in there. It's going to be used. It's got a big drain, it's got a big plug, and that whole thing's going to be a wet room. So I don't know if you realise, but the inside of the conservatory was also rendered. So I've got waterproofers in it throughout, because he's using it as a big wet room for his plants. So that's what the function of this is going to be. It's not for them to enjoy. Okay, so we've applied the render. If I give it a little bit of time, to be honest, depending on, it was quite sunny. You don't want to get too ahead of yourself before you start ruling off. And this is a feather edge. This is basically just straight edge aluminium, and it's a Rafina one, I think, if I remember rightly. But the idea is here, we're now going to get the wall flat. This is how you get the render flat. You don't get it with a trowel, you get it with the straight edge. And all we're doing is pulling off the high spots of render. And you always want to go both ways. So you don't even have to use aluminium. This is just a little piece of wood. I ran my eye down it, make sure it was dead straight. And what you want to do is just wet the timber before you start ruling off. And all we're doing is going both ways. So you want to rule horizontally and vertically. And that just ensures that you've got your wall dead flat. So never just go one way. It's a big no-go. So what you do is you rule your render, and then you just pour the excess back in the bucket. Again, I've still got my plank wood at the bottom to cover up and keep any of the drains safe. So the water's just going to drain off straight from the wall, straight into the drains and run off. from there. So lots of waterproofers in the mix, and all we're doing now is we're just filling up any low spots. So we've pulled the high spots from the render, and now anything that hasn't been scraped off, you know, that needs to be filled. So take some more render and then just apply it where you need it. And then same old, now you just rule back the high spots that you've just applied, and that way you've got an even coverage throughout the whole wall. So this is a big part of the process. The ruling is, in my eyes, probably the most important part to the rendering, because if you rule it wrong, the rest, no matter how good you are, the wall's never going to be straight, and it's always going to be show, especially in direct sunlight. It's the biggest critique for any renderer. So you've just got to make sure this stage is bang on. It is the most important, in my eyes, for rendering. This is the bit that you need to get bang on. So again, now I've just got my big level, my rule, made sure it's dead flat. Next bit, give it some time now. You want to leave it, I don't know, it depends on the weather. The thing is with rendering, you can never give timings for when it comes to floating. You've just got to do it by touch. But when it's hard enough where your finger's you're not leaving an imprint, you want to get your float, and all we're doing now, this is where you compress the render. You do circular motions or figure of 8 motions, which I'll show you in a bit, but basically all we're doing is compressing the render now, and we're getting it to that smoother stage. So it's going to look gritty after ruling, don't worry about that. Once it's ruled, you leave it like we said. Let the oxygen get to it, leave it open after you've ruled, and let the oxygen do its thing, let it take the render up, because it needs to be dry for you to float up. You don't want to be doing floating. This is a float, by the way. This is what floating is where small circular motions, like I said, all you're doing is compressing the render into itself, and it gives it strength, it gives it body, and again, it further allows you to flatten the wall. So circular motions, and any spots that are missing, again, you take some render and you just fill it in, which I will show you in a minute. This, again, if your ruling's right, the floating should be fairly easy. It's actually dried up a bit here. Don't worry about it, just throw a bit of water on your render, and it really brings it back, especially with the lime in the mix. It allows it to be creamy, and it just makes it nicer to work with. So again, small circular motions, and you have to apply quite a bit of pressure actually, because what the floating does, it takes any high spots off and it fills in the low. So you're literally just moving an area of high concentration to a low, and it just further allows you to get that wall dead flat. Again, this is dead essential, but you need to make sure your ruling's bang on for this to work. If your wall's all over the place, you'll find this stage an absolute nightmare, because you'll forever just be taking chunks off your wall, and it's just not going to work properly. So for the floating to be successful, your ruling's got to be bang on, and don't be scared to add water if it is a bit dry. If you find when you're floating it's pulling and you're pulling the render off, leave it and let it dry up and let it take up. It's better to be floating when the wall's slightly drier rather than slightly wet, because what you'll do if you float when it's wet, you're just going to pull the whole thing off, and that's never good. Wondering why my float, it's got screws in. I left my good float at home. I've had to use my devil's float, whips out from the van. So it's a good way to break it in really, and actually it's going quite well. So if you did wonder why there's screws in there, that's why. Right, now we're coming to the nice part. You just want a nice big sponge, put it in some clean water. Always wear gloves, because the lime in the render will absolutely tear your hands apart. Now we're doing, gently hold the sponge. You don't want a lot of pressure when you're doing this, and you're just rubbing the render in circular motions, always going the same way. And what this will do is bring this aggregate in the sand, bring it to the surface, and give you that nice textured look that you always get in sand cement render. Again, there's not much to this really. All you want to do is just make sure your sponge is always clean. So when you've done a certain section, clean it off in the water, and all we're doing again is just gentle pressure to make sure that you're not leaving any lines. The gentler that you are, the better. And I'm also just cleaning up the area as I'm going, cleaning everything up, getting rid of the dried bits of render. So yeah, just gentle motions, and just hold it really lightly. Gently rub it up in circular motions and you'll find that the aggregate will just come straight up. And I do it fairly soon after floating. And this little bad boy is just floating ahead, spitting. No, I looked till yesterday, it was 2% chance of rain. So the joys of being in Bexhill by the sea.
Former colleagues of the dissident journalist arrested in Belarus after a Ryanair flight was forced to land there on Sunday say they now fear for their own lives. The president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, has insisted that forcing the Lithuania-bound plane to divert to Minsk was within international law. The Lithuanian...
Let's hope the render's alright. It's raining. Raining hard. Oh well. Let's see. Everything's getting soaked. Hopefully it won't last long. But make sure the guttering doesn't go into the wall, so little device. I mean it's all done. Just had some little bits. Just got that reveal to float up, but we're pretty much there. Some bits around here as well that I was doing, but I think that's gonna have to wait now. Another fun, exciting episode. The Conservatory of Doom.